Okay, so hey guys, I'm Sage Valentine. I'm back here to review episode 3 of CBS's Celebrity Big Brother season 1. So let's just get down to it. Pretty much James and Chuck are nominated. Chuck warns Keisha to watch out for Shannon. Keisha wants James to go home. Omarosa says the plan is to get the boys out one by one. And it's amazing how if I had not watched Big Brother After Dark or the live feeds, that I would think that James was going home based on the edit in this episode. Shannon is shown as warning James to keep his cool. She wants him to believe that he is not the target so that the group can take him out. That's a pretty funny edit considering if you watch the feeds, you saw how Shannon and James are working together against the girls, particularly Omarosa and Keisha, who are now public enemy number 1. Mark and James are talking. Mark says that Chuck is hard to read, and he believes that Chuck is mad at him, and he thought that it was too early to blow up the game. It's not too early in this version of Celebrity Big Brother because the game is only 3 weeks long, so you better put the pedal to the metal as far as making big moves. Mark says if he wins the veto, he's going to use it on James and save him. Omarosa and Keisha are talking. Omarosa starts reminding Keisha that big alliances don't last long in this game. That's why she wants to form an alliance with Keisha, which she calls Black Girl Magic, which is a saying that has been used on social media for the past 3 or 4 years. I'm not understanding why so many people are surprised by this and calling this racist. No, you got to Google what Black Girl Magic means. Just Google it, and you'll understand what it means. They claim that they have never seen 2 black girls on Big Brother working together and getting along. I'm like, well, Zakia and Davon were together on Big Brother. I mean, they seemed to get along for a little bit until the whole, like, Paulie situation kind of split them apart, but still. Could they make history as the first Black Girl Magic Alliance? Yeah, they could have, until Omarosa ran to Shannon and told Shannon that Keisha was talking to Chuck, and then all of a sudden Keisha got it in her head that, Shannon got it in her head that Keisha and Chuck made some sort of, like, deal. And I'm looking at her like, no, they didn't. They've been kind of talking, but not so much of a gameplay talk. Like, yeah, that Black Girl Magic Alliance is done, and the 7-person alliance is done as well. So as far as the veto competition is concerned, Keisha chose the house guest choice little thingy, and she chose Shannon. James, Ariadna, and Chuck chose Mark. The 7-person alliance needs to win this veto to maintain their power, and Omarosa is the host of the veto competition. Now, Mark tells Keisha that he would save James, and he's playing this game for himself, and he believes both Chuck and James could beat him. Keisha, on a side note, notices that Mark has changed and doesn't want to work with the alliance. She tells Chuck that she needs him to fight like hell to win that veto because James is her target, and Keisha tells the group that she believes that Mark will help James, and that is the truth. Keisha's problem, in my opinion, as far as her gameplay, is that she needs to be a little bit more discreet, but she's in what they call a damned if you do, damned if you don't type situation. It's something I've talked about in my previous reviews of regular Big Brother from seasons 16, 17, and 18. If you don't already know, I did not review season 19 because that season, to me, I didn't like it. But let's get back to this review. So Julie starts telling the group about current events in this really fun, cute little game. We get down to the veto competition, which is called Four Sneezing Spiritual Spa. Shannon wins the veto. She spelled out the word responsibilities. Game-wise, she is one of the ones to beat. And Ari and James lost the game, so they received the big Brotox treatment. Shannon's edits highlight her allegiance to the Girls' Alliance. But currently on the feed, she's done with that alliance, and she and a majority of the people in the house want Omarosa and Keisha, either or both, to go home. and she lies about them bullying her, among other things. Now that big alliance, the alliance of 7, the girls and the gay, completely unravels, and the show makes it seem like it unraveled because Keisha wants to take down Chuck and put up Mark because she believes that Chuck is more malleable. Ross gives the impression that he doesn't care who goes home, doesn't matter which order. Shannon at this point has Chuck and James pissed at her. And I'm just wondering, like, why is Ross so pressed about Keisha's idea? Unless, of course, he has a side deal or is ready to jump ship. But he claims that he will support Keisha's idea. The way the group is looking at it, the guys are all gunning for Shannon. And I believe it was Ross who said, but I could be wrong, that if Shannon uses it, she will use it to make amends. Now, Omarosa sees that Shannon is focusing on her own game and believes that Shannon should be looking out for the group. But you know how it is in Big Brother. When people are in alliances, people are still looking out for themselves along with the group. And all of a sudden, Ross mentions on a side note that he feels left out. He doesn't say it to the group, but he kind of says it in his diary room sessions. Shannon apologizes for airing her feelings and then starts crying. I feel like her crying is a part of her strategy so that she's not seen as a threat. Everyone else starts crying. All of a sudden, Ross is shown talking about how he feels like he's being discounted, and he's talking to Brandy, and Brandy sees that as well. Because of Ross's feelings, he starts pulling away. He realizes that he is a target once all the boys are gone. The thing about it is that Ross's feelings have nothing to do with the game. And people, like to complain on social media about how when people review the shows, talk about the shows, or sometimes when people play the games, they shouldn't be emotional. They should just play the game. And it feels to me like Ross is being emotional with some of his decisions in regards to the game. Because what happened to him outside of the house has nothing to do with what's going on inside of the house. And I feel like it was a terrible idea to add him to the Girls' Alliance. He's very messy in my opinion. Marissa sees how Ross is being discounted. She and Ross are talking about that. And Shannon, they both see her as a victim and say that she won't be there for very long. So deciding how to use the POV is tearing the alliance apart. Ari and James have to crawl on their knees, dress like babies, and suck on a bottle every time I hear a baby crying sound. James and Mark are talked about by Shannon and Ross because they are seen to both of them as the bigger threat. Ross asked Shannon what's she going to do with the veto. Shannon says whatever Keisha and the alliance want. Ross tells her not to use the veto, to get the target off of her own back because Omarosa and Keisha are running the show. Chuck is a bigger threat than James. I'm like, how? No, James is a bigger threat than Chuck. Hell, Ross is a bigger threat than both of them combined. Ross claims that Omarosa jumped down his throat. I didn't see her do that. Shannon says she doesn't want to use the veto, doesn't want to get any blood on her hands, and the alliance decided to use the veto as a collective. And I guess they're surprised by Shannon saying that she doesn't want to use the veto. Both Keisha and Omarosa are speaking to her in low tones, but Shannon sees that as them attacking her. Omarosa starts speaking the truth about what will happen if they, as an alliance of girls, don't make a big move. The boys will take over and will pick them off one by one, and the girls won't get another chance to make a big move. Now, Shannon struggles with whether or not she's going to use the veto. She says that someone made a good point that she should use it. Now, Omarosa is in her diary room session. She says that they should scare Mark with a little shock and awe, make him uncomfortable. She said if she learned anything from working in the White House, it's that you don't retreat, you reload. Omarosa's talking to Shannon, and she thinks that Keisha spoke to Chuck, and then all of a sudden Shannon gets it in her head that Keisha and Chuck made a final two deal. And I'm just looking at her like, if you've watched Big Brother, you've seen people do this all the time. Why all of a sudden is this a problem? And on a side note, on the feeds, a number of the house guests are a little bothered that Omarosa and Keisha are close, and that Omarosa said that she wouldn't vote out Keisha and vice versa. And Meta World Peace said he wouldn't vote out Omarosa. He wouldn't do that to her. And I guess people see that these three people basically being there for each other is a huge threat. Meanwhile, in other seasons, I've seen people do that, and I didn't see a problem. But let's get back to this review. So, Omarosa wonders if, in her diary room session, if Shannon is unhinged, is she stable enough to go the distance in the game? Shannon decides not to use the veto. In my opinion, she made a good decision for her game at this point, but not for the long run, because James and Ross don't plan on keeping her around for very long, i.e. past the top 4, the top 3, and I'm sure Shannon came in this game to win, not to be sitting here chilling in the top 3 only to get kicked out. James is a dangerous player. He will turn on her, and Ross and Brandy said that Shannon won't make it to the end, because honestly, from what I've seen, she's already being discounted and seen as a bit stupid. And honestly, beyond this situation with the veto competition and involving Omarosa and Keisha, Shannon is a really smart player. The problem is that she's getting emotionally manipulated. She doesn't realize that, and I hope that soon she understands that she is. Like, somebody clues her in on that. Keisha sees this idea of not using the veto as being better for Shannon's game than for the alliance, and Keisha's right. But then again, if Keisha hadn't brought up that idea about them keeping Chuck and getting rid of James, then Shannon probably wouldn't have come to this conclusion. But then again, Shannon came to the conclusion that she came to because of Omarosa, so. All of a sudden, Ian, Derek, Nicole, and Josh pop up, and they came to the episode, to the show, to put their 2 cents in about the game. Derek said he's surprised at how fast the celebrities forgot about the cameras. Josh said that if he was in the house, he would go nuts, and he's impressed by all of the gameplay. Shannon is making herself, in Nicole's eyes, an unnecessary target, and she's right, and Shannon needs to lay low. Derek said you don't want to be the leader of the alliance. You got to let the alliance members tear themselves apart while you sit back and watch. Ian agrees with Derek and says that the leader of the alliance will end up being the one nominated by the other side of the house if that side gets into power, so it's not a good idea to be a leader. He says that the guys have to get their heads in the game, and all the guys should have played their gift bags. Josh says that Meta needs to take his situation, his homesickness, and do what Josh did, and use that as a strategy so everyone will keep him around if he keeps saying that he wants to go. Ian thinks that James will win, but he's also rooting for Ross. Derek says that Marissa has the best chance to win. Nicole also likes Marissa. She thinks she's a great personality, and no one knows that she's a fan, and that is my dream player. Someone who goes in this house, in the Big Brother house, as a fan and does not broadcast the fact that they are a fan. So I love Marissa as well for that reason. Josh is rooting for Ross, and all 4, Ian, Derek, Nicole, and Josh, agree that Shannon has made herself an unnecessary target. Now, Shannon tells Ross that Omarosa will gun for him, and he said he will come for her over the fact of feeling left out and not saying it to Omarosa and Keisha. He does not trust Omarosa and Keisha, and he made some comment where he said that he told himself not to trust anyone like Omarosa, and a lot of people in social media have taken that statement and are just running with it. That's why I always say in Big Brother, you got to be careful what you say, because you never know what will offend people. You got to be very careful. So Shannon and Ross want to flip the vote so that Omarosa has no allies. I'm like, huh? And as I'm watching this, I'm just like, you know, this is going to blow up in both of your faces. Maybe not right now, but later on it'll blow up in your faces. It's going to. And as I said before, I have no horse in this race, but I'm just like, targeting Omarosa at this point is not a good idea when you have an even bigger threat being James. But again, I'm somebody sitting at home watching the show. I'm not somebody playing the game. So Shannon tells Ross that Omarosa will come for him, and he said he's going to come for her. He does not trust Keisha and Omarosa. He does not trust anyone like Omarosa. People are taking that comment that he made, and they're running with it. Shannon and Ross want to flip the vote so that Omarosa has no allies. A group of the people without Omarosa and Keisha, you know, the people in the alliance, they're in the room talking, and Chuck comes in. He says he's looking for Keisha, and people feel some type of way about that. So now all of a sudden that means that Chuck and Keisha made a side deal, and that's wrong. And so is Omarosa and Keisha being close. And I'm side-eyeing these people like, don't act like people haven't done this in previous seasons. So why all of a sudden is this a problem? Like, but this is nothing new. Other players have done this and people never had a problem with it. So what's the difference? Anyway, Shannon believes that they're all playing into Keisha's hands, and they need to make a deal. By they, I mean, I believe it was Brandy, Marissa, Ross, Shannon, and Ari all in the room together. They all need to make a deal with James so that if he is saved and he wins HOH, he won't put up any of them on the chopping block. Shannon says they're being played. They have the numbers, so they should flip the vote. It's good for their game, in my opinion, for now. So James is saved because Chuck ends up going home in a vote of 7-1. The 7 people that voted to kick out Chuck were Brandy, Ariadna, Ross, Meta, Marissa, Shannon, and Mark. Omarosa was the only person who voted to kick out James. Chuck is the first celebrity evicted from the U.S. version of Celebrity Big Brother. Omarosa and Keisha are shocked. I'm not surprised by that. Omarosa whispered something in Chuck's ear and gave him some type of folded up white thing. I don't know what it was. Chuck said to Julie he was not surprised he was voted out. He's not sure what he did wrong. Julie said at least he made an effort with the gift bag situation. Chuck regrets that he didn't tell Keisha his plan. He wasn't counting on the guys helping him as far as the gift bag situation, meaning them actually using their gift bags. Chuck says that he wants to be on Amazing Race. I would watch if he was on there. And he learns that he's the first part of the jury because, as you know, the show is moving faster than regular seasons of Big Brother, so he's the first jury member. And he gets to go home and watch everything. He says that Shannon has a good shot of winning because she's tough and smart, but he won't count anyone else in that house out. He got to see the different goodbye messages, and I didn't write all of them down because I was watching his facial expression. You could tell who he liked and who he didn't like. But Omarosa said that something changed in the alliance and that's why you went home. But Chuck said that he had a good time and he had a deal with Keisha that if she broke the tie, he would not put her up. Now, as far as this episode is concerned, I'm glad that I watched it on demand and not live, because the commercials, they drive me crazy. And it's sad that on CBS All Access, they have as many commercial breaks as they do for live TV. This season, I have not watched one episode live so far. I've watched them all on demand or on CBS All Access. As of right now, the last time that I watched the feeds, Ross, I believe, I know this is a spoiler alert, he became HOH. I don't know who is nominated. I'll find that out when I go on Tumblr. And I will be back to do the review for tonight's episode, because I want to see who's HOH, and I want to know what happened with Omarosa, because something crazy happened with that regarding the HOH competition. But you all take care, and I'll be back to do the review for episode 4. I love you all. Bye, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching.